Good morning, my dear friends. Welcome to my channel or welcome back. My name is Sarita. I have two Disney princesses for you this morning. And they are from the new Disney Princess collab with Bath and Body Works. The princesses in question are Jasmine right here. And I also have Ariel, which is right here. And after the initial hype, I think we were all kind of quick to realize that, at least when it came to the actual candles, the aesthetic leaves much to be desired. The accessories were amazing, absolutely amazing, and sold out. Some of them sold out in hours. The accessories were great, and frankly, even the body care items looked pretty good, although there's a lot of them left in the store. The candles, though, did not look good. They looked very phoned in for Bath and Body Works, for the standard that we're accustomed to see from Bath and Body Works. This would be a very lackluster candle design. And then when you consider that it was supposed to be a Disney Princess collaboration, yikes. It was actually quite bad. The wraparound is really quite cheap, and you can see the cheapness of the texture of it, all the seams, etc. Weirdly, and I noticed this, by the way, everybody started noticing the little like hidden message, the wraparound. There's like a silhouette once you burn down of the princess, and then some like attributes, curious, explorer, independent, blah, blah, blah. So all of them have that as you burn it down, which is kind of a nice little touch. I don't know if you can notice it, but the inside of this wrap, at least here for this Ariel one, has like a pearlized shimmer on it and actually looks far more expensive than what is around the external. So oh my gosh, they should have given us like the pearlized shiny material. At least it would have been something instead of this like muddy, dark. Oh, it was so bad. Such a missed opportunity. Yeah. But I don't need to belabor this point, because at this point, like, everybody knows that like these leave a great deal to be desired. The pattern too is like shifted down on the candle, and Ken from Candle Channel, I think he's correct. I think they probably envisioned some sort of fancy lid, and so they were trying to accommodate for the fancy lid, but then they just ended up like slapping on just a regular kind of tin lid that admittedly has a little bit of a like goldish hue to it, but certainly not the best lids that they've done. I'm not impressed with it personally. And it's, of course, a fingerprint magnet too. So you got to kind of, whatever. Anyway, aesthetic, not great. And what is also, and I didn't notice it as much with the body care, but like it's a Disney Princess collection and it was all like shades of blue and green. Not even particularly nice blues and greens. And I love my blues and greens, but I actually think that this is probably not the color continuum that you want for a Disney Princess collection, ? Unless you're going like very, very sophisticated. But this was not very, very sophisticated. It was phoned in and cheap looking. So like, if you're gonna give us cheap, then at least give us like shades of pink or something. I don't know. Just go throw yourself into it. Go into that like 9-10-year-old girl aesthetic. And they just kind of didn't do that either. So bizarre. I think it was probably not the collab that they had imagined. Again, Ken has conjectured that there was some amount of turmoil and conflict in this collaboration, and a very like cryptic message on TikTok or something like that saying that this would be, it was an internal memo to all of the Bath and Body Works employees being like, there will be no further extensions of this collection. There will not be any, like, it was just kind of one of those like weird kind of, like I said, cryptic messages that seems to imply that there might have been some drama and there might have been some scheduled extensions of this collection. Apparently not. I do want to give props not only to the accessories, to the display, to the body care aesthetic, but I also want to give props to the soundtrack in the store. They had like a curated Disney soundtrack, and I actually enjoyed it. Most of the songs on that soundtrack were not just ripped from the movies, but were actually kind of like remixes or renditions that actually sounded fairly sophisticated and sweet. So I thought the soundtrack was a winner, and the accessories were obviously winners. Everything else, I'm not so sure. We're here to talk about the fragrances though. So for my money, I did buy all of them with the exception of Moana because I miscounted and got to the register and came away with one less Disney princess, which was Moana. But I did smell Moana in store. And in fact, Moana was the very first one that I like leapt to because I, number one, love Moana. Of all the princesses they were highlighting, Moana is my favorite. And I knew it was going to have coconut in it. I knew it was going to be kind of like a beachy fragrance, which is my vibe too. So I was like, Moana is my thing. And like, I went over and I smelled it and I was like, oh, it was just so generic. It was so generic. Like even more generic than some of the many generic candles that Bath & Body Works tropically gives us in January and February and throughout the year, the Tiki White Beach, etc., etc., etc. Yes? I mean, it didn't even rise to like the level of many of those generic candles. So maybe it was kind of a Freudian slip that like I just forgot Moana and didn't bring her home. So I really can't recommend Moana, but that being said, I didn't burn it. So, you know, I don't think it had good strength and throw though. So that's about 2 strikes right there. And then I brought home the other, I think it was 5 of them, because I think there were 6. I brought home the other 5. I did return without burning Tiana, which was this like really candied, aggressive, citrus, candied, effervescent something or other. And it was so bizarre because like none of the notes on the bottom indicated that this would be a fruity, let alone citrus kind of fragrance. And in fact, I remember one of the notes on it was like delicate white lotus. And I was laughing with one of the Bath & Body Works employees. I'm like, delicate is not this candle. Like this candle is not even close to being delicate. It's just not. There's nothing fragile. It is like brass and brash and garish and aggressive, like not necessarily in a pleasant way. That being said, there are a lot of people who like Bath & Body Works kind of more effervescent, citrusy kind of moment. And it stood out from the collection because all of the rest of the collection were either kind of glorified, well, not really glorified. They were actually more subpar versions of like perfumes or personal fragrances. They were perfumey and they were floral. And then this one was just kind of like lime and lemon, you know? I guess it's probably all the more ironic too because everybody thought that Tiana's fragrance should have been beignets, should have been some sort of like donut, which is like a New Orleans like cuisine moment. And I haven't actually seen the Princess and the Frog. I can't believe it. I stopped seeing some Disney movies. That was one that I haven't seen. So beignets may even feature prominently in that movie. I don't know. A lot of people thought that's what it should have been. But I get it. They really weren't kind of doing gourmand for this collection. And as Kent said, like it would kind of, I don't know, kind of make Tiana stand out for all the wrong reasons. If like everybody got beautiful floral perfumes and then she was like, oh, I smell like fried dough. You know what I mean? So I can understand it. But at the same time, that lime citrus effervescent thing was like halfway to gourmand already. So. And I don't know that there was anything like lime or lemon-like about Tiana or New Orleans, with the exception of the fact that Tiana's like iconic color is very kind of lime green. So there was that play in, which I'm not going to undermine and I'm not going to diminish. I do think that sometimes fragrances smell a certain color and that color that it smelled was very similar to like the Tiana green color. So there was that. Speaking of which, And maybe we should just go right to it. Jasmine to me smells like glowy and golden. And so for me, because it smells golden, I actually think it might have been a better Belle fragrance, because Belle's iconic color is like this amazing golden because of that amazing ball gown that she wore that was that golden color. So actually, and while rose is a good tie-in for Belle as well because of the wilting rose, you know, motif for the movie, I actually think that a fragrance that smells golden would be amazing for that Belle candle. The Belle I took back as well. You know, there were a lot of people that liked that Belle fragrance, and even a lot of people who have fairly sophisticated palettes, so I don't want to like shit on it too much. But for my money, Belle was extremely cliched. I thought that Moana was cliched, and then when I smelled Belle, I mean, you guys saw it when I had the haul. When I smelled Belle, I'm like, oh my gosh, Bath & Body Works does these kinds of fragrances in their sleep. This is just not even remotely unique or interesting. It is really not. And it was just so heavy with that really cliched Bath & Body Works, I am a shower gel kind of smell. So I just thought Belle was ridiculous. But it sold very well, and I think a lot of people liked it. And it could be because it was an extremely generic Bath & Body Works fragrance. And frankly, that's what the majority of people go into Bath & Body Works for. So I can kind of understand it, but it was not for me. I don't waste time with those kinds of fragrances. So Belle did go back. Tiana went back, didn't buy Moana. That means that I was left with 3, and the 3 were Jasmine, Ariel, and Cinderella. I actually thought Cinderella smelled pretty good too. Although reports are that and I haven't burned it yet, reports are that I'm gazing at it off screen here, which is why I keep looking to my right or left or whatever it is that you're seeing me do. Cinderella has gotten bad reports for not having very good strength and throw and just generally being kind of an unremarkable white floral. It allegedly has a ton of gardenia in it, and I do think it has a lot of gardenia. I don't know, for me personally, I'm picking up on Cinnaroli in it, which makes the entire fragrance go just a little bit more beachy than I think was probably appropriate for Cinderella. For me, it's kind of halfway to Tropidelic, to be perfectly honest. And Tropidelic had a good amount of gardenia in it as well. So for me, a little bit beachy. I like it for that reason, but apparently it's not quite Tropidelic, and it's really not remarkable. And to be perfectly honest, I would return Cinderella if there was something on the floor at Bath & Body Works right now that actually perked my interest. And I'm sorry to get up in this red letter kind of tone here, but what is going on at Bath & Body Works? It is not okay. They've had a whole lot of candles come out and collabs and all kinds of different things in their store, and it is now deep into March, nearly April, and we haven't had good candles yet. We have had very lackluster candles, very, very lackluster performance. I really think Bath & Body Works needs to pull something out of the hat, and it needs to be soon, because I am losing my patience, and I know a lot of serious candle people are losing their patience as well. I ride pretty hard for Bath & Body Works, but I'm not going to lie and tell you that this has been okay. It has not been okay. Bath & Body Works has struggled. Last year struggled quite a bit, actually. Struggled with performance, struggled with really remarkable fragrances that amplified and performed well. And I was hoping it was just a little bit of an off year. But here we are in April, and it's a disaster. Like, it's not even as good as it was last year. Because at least last year, well, we had a whole range of botanical candles at this point that didn't quite perform. At least they were new. At least there was something different. We have had nothing new, nothing different, nothing successful for the last 3 or 4 months. I just want, Bath & Body Works, I want you to know that you are on notice. We are not ignoring this. We are not ignoring. You need to come to the table with something. You absolutely do. Homeworks. Homeworks. Can you give us something? Homeworks. I don't think anything's going on with you either. Why are all the candle companies conspiring? Is it a collusion? Is it a collusion? Everybody's just tired? As long as one candle company isn't actually performing, I guess they could just carry on this way, you know? Homeworks, this is your moment to shine. This is your moment to give us a collection, a splashy collection that we all want to talk about. And make Bath & Body Works look bad. And make Bath & Body Works hold their feet to the fire, right? Someone's got to perform. Break the collusion. Break the collusion. Yeah. And make everybody else snap to it. All right, preamble over. I'm sorry, that was 15 minutes. Let's talk about the winners, and I do have Cinderella and I haven't burned it. And like I said, I probably would return it if there were like juicy new candles in the store, but there aren't. So it's like, I guess I'll just hang on to Cinderella and like burn a lackluster Gardenia Neroli candle. You know what I mean? What else is there to burn? Like literally nothing, right? I do think that these were the two best of the collection here, the Jasmine and the Ariel. Let's just put it this way. They were my two favorites subjectively, but I kind of wonder if objectively they were kind of the best two as well. At least with Ariel, Ariel was not only the best, the most avant-garde, but it also performed quite well. But let's just hold off on that for a second. Let's talk about Jasmine, which glows this amazing yellow color. So the notes on Jasmine are sparkling jasmine flower, jeweled currants, and soft woods. And we just didn't know. I mean, when we saw those notes on the website before this launched, we had no idea what that was going to smell like. Now that we got in the store and we smelled it, surprise, it's Baccarat Rouge. As if we need another Baccarat Rouge dupe from Bath & Body Works to boot. Bath & Body Works was very late on the draw with Baccarat Rouge in a way that like even Target wasn't late on the draw. So I don't really know what was happening at Bath & Body Works. There was a regional manager that came in, and honestly, the higher ups in these companies are usually notorious for like not knowing the product and really not knowing anything but numbers. But like she said she hadn't even heard of Baccarat Rouge as a perfume. So God bless. If there were a lot of people high up in Bath & Body Works who are that out to lunch, but I find it surprising that that would be the case. At any rate, Bath & Body Works was very late to the draw on Baccarat Rouge, and the very first one that they presented to us was a masculine fragrance. They marketed it for men as the second part of that wedding collection last year. It was First Sight. Very odd and an enormous marketing misstep because the men didn't really buy it that much. And the women who would have been interested in a Baccarat Rouge dupe didn't even smell it because it was marketed to men. Yikes. I will say that First Sight was a touch more masculine than Baccarat Rouge. Just a touch. It leaned a bit more masculine, a little bit more woody, a little bit more bergamonty. But I think their vision for it should have gone, and probably did go, a lot more masculine than that. Like maybe an inspired by Baccarat Rouge, but definitely a masculine fragrance. It missed on the masculine side. And therefore really was just a fairly good dupe for Baccarat Rouge. It just wasn't masculine enough. So I really think that First Sight still continues to be like their best Baccarat Rouge dupe to date. Since then, they've come out with a lot of other things. They, especially in their like everyday luxuries line, they now have an alleged Baccarat Rouge dupe in the women's everyday fragrance line. And they have one in the masculine everyday fragrance line as well. Neither of them, both of them are kind of like vaguely similar to Baccarat Rouge, but nowhere near being an actual dupe. Actually, First Sight was about as close as they've gotten so far, and it just wasn't marketed as a Baccarat Rouge dupe, which is quite stupid of them. And by the way, that First Sight came in all of the masculine body care. I still have a lot of it because, it was quite good. My sister and I mean, even before it was clearance, like in the summer, we would buy that, the cheaper men's body spray, which is like an aerosol can. It looks like Axe body spray. And it kind of like smells like Axe. She told me, she was like, when you smell it, do you have to hold your breath because it's like so toxic? I'm like, yes. It's like one of those like old fashioned like hairsprays where like regardless of how well it smells, once it settles, like you have to hold your breath. Otherwise, like you're going to lose brain cells, Usually Bath and Body Works' body sprays, masculine or feminine, lately have been like developed in such a way that they're not like 90s toxic like that. This one was, for whatever reasons, close parentheses on that. My sister and I have a lot of those that we do all up in the hair, just like regular, And now the Baccarat Rouge is kind of played out and you don't walk down the street and smell like 17 teenage girls wearing it. I kind of don't mind wearing it now because it's like off-brand. Everybody's over it. It's a cliche now. So now I don't mind wearing it. At any rate, first sight was quite good. The dupes are not good. This Jasmine is actually very close to Baccarat Rouge, but it's on the feminine side. And I actually do think, I can't remember who the reviewer was. Maybe it was Greg from All About Candles that was like, I thought it was a dupe for In the Stars. And then I was corrected by everyone. It's actually Baccarat Rouge. Greg, if it was you, you are correct. You are correct. It is a good dupe of Baccarat Rouge, but it actually kind of goes right in the middle of In the Stars and Baccarat Rouge. So obviously, well, not obviously, but In the Stars predates Baccarat Rouge. It's been a quite good, and I have a fondness for In the Stars. I usually have shower gel of In the Stars sitting around, In the Stars predates Baccarat Rouge and has a lot of those qualities in that it's got this amazing, warm, caramelized, like ambered, but also delicious kind of aspect to it that glows golden. And then it has a great deal of musk in it. And then it does have, if I'm not mistaken, some fruit component that I think is a red berry of some kind. And so the fact that they've put like jeweled currants here on the bottom, and if you smell deeply enough, there is kind of a back note that does seem a little bit red fruity, just a little bit. I do think that it kind of cuts the distance between Baccarat Rouge and In the Stars. So if you want to see the continuum or the transformation from In the Stars up to Baccarat Rouge, or you've never been completely understanding of how people are always talking about In the Stars or Baccarat Rouge in the same breath when they're obviously different fragrances, this Jasmine fragrance sits right in the middle, maybe a little bit closer to Baccarat Rouge, and it kind of tells that story of how we get from In the Stars to Baccarat Rouge. At any rate, it's quite lovely. And since I love In the Stars and I love Baccarat Rouge, I love this fragrance. I did. I mean, the minute I opened the jar, I was like, oh yes, oh yes. This was not what I was expecting from a Princess Jasmine candle. Like Greg from All About Candles, since she has a very like Middle Eastern and Indian kind of vibe to her, as in from the country India, I would have liked to have seen some of those more exotic spices used a little bit more prominently. It's fine to have jasmine, given that her name is Jasmine, but I would have, maybe some sort of like very creamy, like almond component, and then with just some like cardamom or just something in there that was just a unique spice, a little bit more spice. Even if it was just a black pepper or something, you just want something that I think is a better nod to the ethnic and cultural like resonance of that movie, of those characters, etc. It's just my personal opinion. And because I like spice and I like musk and I usually like something a little bit more exotic, I was really hoping for that. So I think it's a missed opportunity in that respect. There sometimes, I mean, especially when you've got like a Cinderella candle, the Disney princesses are so generic that it's kind of like, we could do pretty much anything. It just has to smell sweet and beautiful. There are many Disney movies that take you to a specific space, place, and vibe. Aladdin is definitely one of them. And so as a candle developer, it should be very easy for you to know the direction that you should go into conceptually. That is a godsend. And I really just don't think they did that here. That said, it is a beautiful fragrance. And I do think that it would make an amazing Belle candle, because there is something about Baccarat Rouge and In the Stars that just glows so warm with that caramelized ambered component against the musk. And so I just think because it glows golden and yellow, it would have been a beautiful candle for Belle. Belle was generic AF anyway. Give her the golden candle. Give her the Baccarat Rouge candle. I actually think that would just fit Belle very, very well. Belle doesn't, I think, is supposed to be allegedly French Village, but frankly isn't French enough. She just kind of comes across as a fairly generic fairy tale kind of princess. Give her Baccarat Rouge. I really think that would have been gorgeous for Belle. So for me, this should have been Belle's candle, and then Jasmine should have been something a lot darker and a lot more intriguing and spicy and Indian. That would have been fantastic, I think, personally. That said, I love Baccarat Rouge. Folks, this got filthy AF. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was a filthy candle. It did not burn well. I don't know that it went full puny wicks, but it burned low for half of its existence. And like I said, was filthy. I think it was probably the rope-like wicks. I'm not really sure. But yeah, regardless, it was filthy. I mean, look at those rings around the candle. Look at them. Yikes. Yikes. That said, it still smells like Baccarat Rouge. I mean, it stood up to the soot. There's no question. And I have to be honest, even when it was burning low, it still was putting off some amount of power. That said, the power on this candle was muted. I would say that it really only got, even in a back bedroom like scenario, really only got up to about a 5. I would say a 5 is kind of where it sat. Sometimes very early in the candle, it kind of leaned into almost 6. But I would say for the most part, it stayed 5. And then once it started getting filthy and burning low, then it did come really down into the 4 range as well. Like I said, I was impressed at how low it was burning and was still giving off a 4. There is this amazing, rich, intoxicating aspect of this fragrance that just can't quite be like shut out, you know? That said, and I did say this to one of the Bath & Body Works employees who was also saying how disappointing it was as it performed. They had somebody bring it back and then they burned it in the back, and they were amazed too at how like low the strength and throw was and how filthy it was. We were talking about it, and I just said, you know, I have to be honest though, there are other companies who have duped this Baccarat Rouge in candle form. I'm thinking specifically of Kringle. I have yet to burn a Baccarat Rouge candle dupe that has any kind of power. So it just may be one of those fragrances that is difficult to amplify for whatever reasons. There seems to be a ceiling on Baccarat Rouge fragrance candles, and home fragrance really only gets up to about a 5 or a 6. Can't go any further than that, and many of the dupes are significantly under it. Frankly, the Sol de Janeiro fragrance is much the same way. So I do think that for whatever reasons, these fragrances are just, they're made to be personal fragrances, and I don't know, at least that any candle company has developed the knack for getting them to amplify in home fragrance quite the same way that they do in terms of personal fragrance. But so there you go. I wasn't totally surprised that that Jasmine performed the way that it did. And honestly, it performed just as well as First Sight. You know, I don't remember First Sight being as filthy though. There was that. And it performed very similarly to First Sight. It may have even performed a margin better, but about the same. And I like both of them. I like this Jasmine one, and I like First Sight. First Sight leans a little bit masculine, and Jasmine leans a little bit feminine, but together they're very, very good Baccarat Rouge dupes. So I was happy with this candle. I don't know that I would buy it again, primarily because I already have, I think, a couple backups of First Sight. That said, if it was like on clearance, I might get it because I do kind of like that, like in the stars, more feminine take on Baccarat Rouge, as well as the more masculine one. So yes, it was a winner in my book. And if you like Baccarat Rouge, you probably would have liked that candle. Just prepare, just, you know, make sure that your expectations are correct in terms of like performance, and be prepared for a very filthy candle. For me, the winner of the collection was Ariel. And I'm not going to lie to you, I think it's a little bit acquired taste. The folks at Bath & Body Works said that it sold out like fairly quickly though, which is probably a good indication that it was a bit more mainline than even I thought that it was. This is a candle for me, but I completely receive that it's not the Belle candle. It's not a very generic Bath & Body Works kind of fragrance. And I thought that a lot of people were not going to like it. Apparently they did. And folks, this one performed so well. Not only was it my favorite fragrance, but it also, oh my gosh, it really performed great. This was one of those candles that you could absolutely keep in the open concept. And in the open concept, it came in at a 7, at a 7.5 every single time. Toward like the, you know, like the 2/3 mark of the candle started burning very low. And in it burning low, the strength and throw came down as well. So I actually stuck it in the back bedroom for its final third, or not the back bedroom, the guest bathroom for the final third. And I'm actually burning out in my open concept right now, Lily of the Valley from Homeworks from Harry Slatkin. And I remember I've been laying on my couch in the evenings, you know, I light the candles in the various different places, laying on my couch watching TV. And I remember at a certain point thinking to myself, it's almost like this Lily of the Valley smells like Ariel rather than Lily of the Valley. And I kept smelling it and being like, isn't that an aquatic note? And then I realized that Ariel was filtering into the open space from the guest bathroom. It was overtaking Lily of the Valley, which is kind of understandable because Lily of the Valley is a little bit more of a muted presence. But every time I burned it in the guest bathroom, even burning super low, it would come out into the open concept. So this was a very strong candle in many different senses. So the notes on this one are sea salt breeze, golden citrus, and coral waters. So basically a few nonsense notes here, a few fantasy notes. You've got sea salt breeze and coral waters. So you know that it's going to be a briny aquatic fragrance from those two. And then in the middle, you've got citrus. So all you know from that is that it's going to be an aquatic with citrus in it. Oh gosh, this candle is so great. And it's really unique. It is very briny and it is very aquatic, but it's also very sweet. So the brininess here doesn't necessarily translate to salt. It's actually much more of a mineral brininess. So there is a lot of like mineral, aquatic, mineral seaweedish kind of a feel to it. Oh man, that's good. Man, that's good. Beautiful aquatic. But I wouldn't say that it's like a very like natural, authentic, I'm standing at the seaside kind of experience. Yumi in the Sea from last year was very much closer to that, like I'm standing at the beach smelling the sea and the air, etc. That was a much more natural kind of experience. This one is definitely a personal fragrance, although, and the people at Bath & Body Works did say this, the personal fragrance has not sold as well as the candle did. Although, because of the brininess and because of the mineral and because of that being the dominant tone to this candle, it might be a bit weird on your skin or to splash. You know what I mean? It's like splashing yourself with seaweed or something like that. it's a vibe. It's a choice. You know what I mean? And I didn't buy any of the body care, so I can't tell you how it dries down or how it differs from the home fragrance. Man, it's a lot of aquatic, it's a lot of mineral. And then right up the center of the candle, there is something which is, it's very assertive. It could be fruity and it could be citrusy, but it's not juicy. It's not like a juicy fruit. It's almost like, you know how like when you get fruits in season, like, I don't know, Harry David or something like that, you know, or, and I've never had this experience before, but if you were in the country where, or the kind of climate where there are orange trees, orange groves, where you're picking these fresh citrus fruits, it kind of smells like that kind of a citrus note, rind on. So we're not talking the fruit. It's not a citrus, it's not a sparkling, it's not even a zest per se. And it's certainly not like, it's certainly not the fruit itself or the juice of the fruit. It is almost just the way that like if you had a whole bushel of lemons and oranges and you just had recently picked them and you just put your nose into the bushel and you just smelled the aroma of, you know, the rinds of all of them. It's that kind of citrus note. So it's muted and it's not as sweet and it's not poppy and it's not like, I can't explain it. It just smells like the citrus would smell before it's been broken open. You know what I mean? And I do think that it's kind of a mixture of those different fruits. I am getting something very kind of sharp and tangy though, that could be like a bergamot or a lemon or something like that. Definitely up in that sharper, more tart region. But again, think about like smelling a lemon just from the store. Like when you smell it, it's that kind of note rather than the real sharpness and bracingness of an actual lemon juice, or even the zest if you were to peel it, very muted. I think it is that lemon, maybe even a little bit of lime, but I think probably suspect more of a bergamot. And then I do think there's some like sweeter mandarin orange underneath it as well. But again, full and round, not zested, not broken open, not juicy, right? I think it's actually many of the same fruits that you do smell in the Tiana candle, but they're more candied and more effervescent and more juicy. Whereas here, they're just, because they're not like that, it means that it's less synthetic smelling and it's more natural smelling, and the sugar content is much lower. And that up against the briny and the aquatic, it's just a really interesting smell. It really is. And I loved it. And I loved it being burned. I just did. It's not a through and through aquatic. And like I said, it isn't like a seaside, authentic outdoor experience kind of candle. It's definitely a conceptual. Yeah, I think there's probably some amber in here as well that makes it like a personal, or pretends that it's like a personal fragrance. Like I said, I just don't know if you would want to splash yourself with that because of the high briny mineral aquatic content in it. But man, it was great for home fragrance. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily smell one particular season. It felt great right now, you know? It felt great right now. Yeah. Man, that's nice. Really nice, great performance. It won't be for everyone. It just won't, but it's a great fragrance. And I really do wish that they do repackage this one after the collab is done, after Disney doesn't care. It sounds kind of like Disney doesn't care now. Sounds like Disney wants to distance itself from this collab for a whole host of reasons. Again, just a conjecture. I would love to see this repackaged as something else that really I don't know, invokes a mood, some sort of conceptual name, etc. Oh yeah, that's a great candle. I mean, this is one of those candles that they could bring out in the summer when they do the usual surf shop and summer boardwalk and all those different things. They could definitely do this and call it something special. And I don't know what that special thing is, but I really, really, really want to see this repackaged. And frankly, it performed so successfully. Minimal soot on this one. I'm not going to lie that there was soot. These were the slim core wicks. And I actually took a picture, and I'm not going to bother showing it to you, but I took a picture like when I first started burning it, like it was so weird. Like the wicks just weren't really like consuming. They weren't burning. So like at the end of blowing it out, they would just like stand super tall like this. Very tiny, very thin, big grasshopper legs just all the way up. Almost like they weren't really burning down or keeping pace with the candle. It was really strange looking. And they weren't developing muffin tops. They were just kind of like, so I like the wicks that they used, and I think that the wicks that they used were not inclined toward sooting or toward burning low, frankly. And because of that, I think the candle was really saved because we didn't get the kind of filthiness that I experienced from like Jasmine, for instance. Yeah. But it did develop soot near the bottom. And like I said, the last third did burn lower at that point. It still was impressive in the amount of volume that it was giving off. So a very, very successful candle across the board, and one that I would really like to see in the future. They're sold out in my store, so would I buy another one? Yeah, I would. But I would also kind of prefer to get the repackage because I'm not impressed either with this aesthetic or with this vibe. I mean, this fragrance was fine for Ariel because Ariel's a mermaid and there was the aquatic thing in it, but I don't know. I don't really know. I actually wonder if this might have been a better fragrance for Moana, because Ariel was, I mean, she's an older lady at this point. She was in that Disney genre where everything was plastic fantastic. So it wasn't about getting the authenticity of any space, place, etc. Where I think there was a little bit more care in like Moana in Hawaii to kind of give that sense. So I really think that with the Ariel candle, you could have done the plastic fantastic. Yes, I mean, this is where Bath & Body Works shines. As with Moana, like you can do a pretty like Bath & Body Worksified kind of beach, water candle, that has a lot of like pineapple in it or something like that. Think of like the crab Sebastian and like all that kind. And it's a very like, yeah, you're not gonna like disrespect a certain kind of culture, if you know what I mean, by doing something that's like very cliched. Very tiki beach, kind of a tiki beach candle for Ariel, I think would have been fine. This is considerably more sophisticated and intriguing than what I would expect from, it's more serious, frankly, than Ariel is. So for that reason, I really look forward to a repackage on it and a completely different vibe for adults, if you know what I mean. All right. Thank you guys so much. I know that was a lot. Those are my two princesses that I do recommend, with reservations in the Jasmine candle, but without reservations really for Ariel. The only caveat being, if you're not an avant-garde kind of girl or guy, and if you kind of don't love the really briny aquatics, I don't think this is probably your candle. At the very least, you're probably not going to appreciate or understand it. And at the most, you may just really hate it. So there is that. Just personal preferences aside, though, objectively from a performance standpoint and from a conceptual standpoint, I have to give it really high marks. That's what I've got for you, my friends. We're to the end of the month. And so I'm going to do a merch and review video next. I think my empties, they're kind of sad this month because it's been a sad month for me. I got very, very sick and very, very busy and kind of didn't burn candles. Even once I had kind of recovered, I was just still like I think I kind of lost my sense of smell the pneumonia really took it out of me. So for a minute, I was like, I'll never burn candles again. I don't want to smell anything ever again. I'm fragrance free now. And I knew that that would probably work itself out, and it did. But there were several weeks in March like that. So unfortunately, I don't have that many candles to show you. That said, I'm back on the wagon now. I'm burning. And I think April is going to be much more full. It's going to be much more full and plentiful. So definitely look forward to that. And I will see you in the next one, which will be March empties. Thanks so much, my guys. Bye.